Judge Mershon has once again held Trump in contempt for violating his gag orders, and there are a ton of headlines saying jail time was threatened, and I think that once again we need to just dive into the actual decision rather than seeing the sensationalized headlines. I'm Eliza Orland's career public defender for the last 14 years, and I'm going to have to use some of the New York Times article because we don't have the transcripts yet. However, the judge says that Trump is attacking the rule of law and he broke the gag order, and he apparently threatened jail time. Based on what the New York Times is saying, he says this is a direct attack on the rule of law. I'm not going to call this remarkable courtroom drama because I wasn't there and I don't actually know, but he does say that jailing Trump was the last thing he wanted to do. So even they concede that. And so I think that everyone's saying he's threatening jail time may be extreme, but we'll wait to see the transcript. But he does say he wants to protect the dignity of the justice system and that he understands the magnitude of such a decision and that it would be a last resort. He says you were the former president of the United States and might be the next president as well. Then the judge handed down this decision. Now, I would go through the entirety of the background in the decision, except I did that in the last video where I broke down the contempt decision, and so you can hear that entire thing there. But at the end of the background, he does say that he ordered Trump to pay a fine of $1,000 for each of the 9 violations, and that there was an additional order to show cause, and they seek an additional $1,000 fine for each of the violations. In the findings of fact, they are saying that the statements made in the hallway of 100 Center Street outside the door of the Supreme Court of the state of New York, County of New York, Part 59 on April 22nd at 12:40 p.m. after court adjourned for the day, the defendant stated, "And when are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial. So he got caught lying, pure lying. And when are they going to look at that?" And then at approximately 6 p.m. on the same day, April 22nd, on a program called Just the News, No Noise, which is a broadcast on a network called Real America's Voice, the defendant stated, "The judge is rushing the trial like crazy. Nobody's ever seen a thing like this. That jury was picked so fast, 95% Democrats. The area is mostly all Democrats. You think of it as just a purely Democrat area. It's a very unfair situation, that I can tell you." And then the third one is by virtue of an interview that the defendant gave to a program called Action News, which is an ABC News affiliate in Pennsylvania, on April 23rd, which aired at 5:56 p.m. The defendant stated, among other things, well, Michael Cohen is a convicted liar. He's got no credibility whatsoever. Michael Cohen was a convicted liar. But what he did is he did some pretty bad things. And then at a press event on April 25th at 6:35 a.m. in response to a question about David Pecker, he's been very nice. David's been a very nice guy. The defendant does not dispute that he made these statements. Rather, he advances defenses that they do not constitute a willful violation of the expanded order, and therefore he should not be found to be in criminal contempt. He says that the references to Michael Cohen are protected political speech, and that he doesn't reference any prospective juror or the proceedings, and then the comments about David Pecker do not constitute a violation. So the conclusions are that the judiciary authorizes the court to hold a party in contempt for willful disobedience of a court's lawful mandate, a willfulness on the part of the defendant. They make a finding of criminal contempt. The moving party must establish, this is, again, all the same as the last time that we went through this in terms of what the law requires. Now, interestingly, the court does differentiate between the statements that were made and the different pieces of this contempt. So the court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant's statements referenced in Exhibits E and G were not protected political speech made in response to political attacks by Michael Cohen. Fascinating. That means that they haven't proven contempt beyond a reasonable doubt with regards to Michael Cohen. Likewise, the court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant's statements referenced in Exhibit H constitutes a violation of the expanded order. To be sure, the court understands the people's argument as it pertains to the exhibit and agrees that often seemingly innocuous or even complimentary words and phrases can, in truth, conceal a more nefarious purpose, such as to threaten, harass, or intimidate. However, context, facial expressions, emphasis, even cadence are critical to reaching that determination. And under the circumstances here, the court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that the statement in question constituted a veiled threat to Mr. Pecker or other witnesses. Okay, now moving on to the ones where he did find contempt. Turning to the statement referenced in Exhibit F, This court finds that people have established the elements of criminal contempt beyond a reasonable doubt. The court's expanded order is lawful and unambiguous. The defendant violated the order by making public statements about the jury and how it was selected. In doing so, the defendant not only called into question the integrity and therefore the legitimacy of these proceedings, but again, raised the specter of fear for the safety of the jurors and of their loved ones. Such concerns undoubtedly threaten to interfere with the fair administration of justice and constitutes a direct attack on the rule of law. It remains the court's fundamental responsibility to protect the decency of the criminal process and to control disruptive influences in the courtroom. The court finds the defendant in criminal contempt for willfully disobeying a lawful mandate of this court in violation of the judiciary law. And then finally, decision and order. It's punishable by a fine of $1,000 or jail not exceeding 30 days. The law permits the judge to do so. Because the offensive statement was made prior to this court's decision of April 30th and the people are only seeking a monetary fine, the court will once again fine the defendant $1,000. However, because this is now the 10th time that this court has found the defendant in criminal contempt spanning 3 separate motions, it is apparent that monetary fines have not and will not suffice to deter defendant from violating this court's lawful orders. Therefore, defendant is hereby put on notice that if appropriate and warranted, future violations of lawful orders will be punishable by incarceration, and it is hereby ordered that defendant pay a $1,000 fine by the end of business Friday, May 10th, and it is further ordered that the statement posted to Truth Social's official campaign website must be removed by 2:15 p.m. Monday, May 6th. So, I see what they're saying. This is, in a way, the judge threatening jail time because he's saying that clearly fines are not having an impact on Donald Trump. However, let's keep referring to primary sources here, and I hope you'll all stick with me and follow along and make sure you're following for more and setting notifications for my posts, because I think that it's really important to review the sources and not just look at the headlines and listen to the media on these things. So again, thanks for being here. Like and follow for more, and share and leave questions in the comments. Appreciate you all.